Hello, this is Draftarig, Hearthflame League Under Edition. I'm your DLC CC, and we're going to go through some power rankings for us. Keep in mind, all power rankings are very biased, and little thought was put into it. Alright, let's get started. Some things, just to lay some rules down for you all. During the season, scheduling is very important. You are expected to communicate with your opponents before Wednesday. If you try to do it after Wednesday and it doesn't work out, I will not be forgiving. Okay? And no games on Sundays. Moving on. My power rankings. I am the one who runs things here. I rule with an iron fist. My rankings are fully biased, as I don't really care what is viable. I want to see some cool stuff. So those of you who thought you built a great team, prepare to be distraught. Last place, Cincinnati LVDs. Their ranking has been pretty brutally hit. I didn't think their priority was very good, which is a problem. Hazards and removal, not the greatest. We also have momentum and pivoting pretty low on their standards, and setup potential seems pretty weak. With that said, these are just baseline things. Looking at it as a whole looks pretty threatening, so whether these stats mean anything is another story. Biggest thing that I rank with is hype factor, and the team is kind of a mid-tier hype factor. Nothing stellar on here that I love. Some gross things like the Ferocity, Super Dragon down. Work on your stuff, Loudreds. Why would we want to see this thing? In the bottom photo, you see a Mega Sceptile. That is clearly where my allegiance lies on this team. So if he's carrying, he'll have my support. Moving on to number 13, we have the Doom Desires, coached by Rawthorn. My favorite guy on this team would be the Mamoswine. He's pretty cool. Hype factor slightly more improved from the last group. Love Omega Lucario. I think Slowking Galar looks pretty cool. Superior, pretty cool. And then we got some stuff like Rotom Wash, which is gross. Veluza, who is not good looking. So, we got stuff here. Probably things that you guys care about more. Priority, kind of so I didn't rank them too strongly with that. Momentum, again, not great. Type chart seems good, if that means anything to you. And speed tiers was pretty solid. I gave it a good 7.5 out of 10 for that. An overall score of 52. And moving on to number 12. We have Too Slow for You by Mr. Dr. Prof. Penguin. Again, hype factor was kind of mid-tier again. Some cool stuff on here. And then you have the Moose. And Ting Lu is just, no. We don't accept Ting Lu here in the under. So you are enemy number 1 as it stands. Fortunately for you, we've got Cradley there. And Cradley is pretty high up on my list of cool bonds. So we'll see if it can carry the Moose through the mud and carry you to victory within hypeness. Other things to look into, speed tiers, again, mid-tier. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10. Priority was kind of Type chart was mid-tier, 7 out of 10. Team has decent hazards and removal. The thing I found the best about this team was its general offense and defensive statistics. Pretty solid overall. Let's see what they've got throughout the season. Moving on to the next team, we've got the Terry Tyrantrums, 58.5. I kind of really wanted to rank these guys really, really highly because that Reggie trio, just like fantastic. And he picked the 3 Regis that are true Regis. Everything else sucks. We don't want to talk about the Gigas and the Lekis and the Dragos. Those guys don't exist in my book. So Poppy's off to a great start there. Hype points, I gave him a whole 9 out of 10. Solid. Offense and defense against statistics were fantastic, thanks to our Reggie trio there. I ranked his low tiers pretty high. I think they all have really good potential to do things, especially our Reggies, Masquerain, and Jumpluff. So I'm really excited to see this team, and I'm hoping that by the end of the season, he takes the Poppy Head 21 takes the ranking curse to the T and brings himself into the playoffs. So Poppy, prove this ranking wrong, please. Next up, we have the Royal Regieleki. Of course, their name is of one of the Regis I do not approve of, so top tier enemy. Let's take down these Royal Regielekis, people. Hype factor, again, mid tier. Nothing here that I super love, so I picked Spectre as the top one here. And then you also got Charizard. I was probably pretty kind with your hype factor. You probably deserve a 0 for that. Your type chart was pretty stellar. I think there was only one weakness on it, so you had 9.5. In terms of the basics, it looks like you got things down. Your hazard removal, stellar. Your hazard setup, stellar. Your low tier Pokemon, I think, have good potential. Boast, pretty impressive, and despite my hatred of Charizard, it's decent, I guess. I do hope to see Hatcham a lot. If it does not show, I deem your season a failure. So let's see how that goes. And moving on. Sachin and Co. This guy's so full of himself. His team's name has his name in it, and I'm loving it. And so Sachin, let me just pull up your team here. Tied with the Lekis, but I placed you higher just because, you know, your name is not Lecky. And Sachin is clearly playing at my favorites here, throwing us a Meganium on this team. If that Meganium is showing up every game, I gotta say I'm gonna manipulate some results for you in your favor. So let's see that happen. Now, with that said, there is a Chansey on this team. Oh, Chansey, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Not super ecstatic about the ugly Suicune either, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. But Meganium pulled up this team's rankings massively, so we got an 8 out of 10 here. Priorities pretty weak. Doesn't have a lot that I liked personally. Pivoting, again, not impressive, but I personally don't run pivoting myself, so I don't think that's a big deal. His ranking is Sachin and Co.'s ranking is pretty deceptive. He is mid-tier in our power rankings, but his team doesn't quite really reflect that for some reason. He's got probably the most broken mon in the tiers, in his stellar form of Terapagos. He's got our ugly Suicune and Giraffe Raikou over here, and we've got the underrated Mega Banette, and my personal favorite outside of Meganium here, there is a Sharpedo. I'm so glad to see him drafted, and I really hope he pops off. And moving on into the Dive Denials, and the Dive Denials are ranked 67.5. Where's your team? There we are. So we ranked really high in the rankings because you got a lot of cool stuff on here. My favorite personally is Suicune. I've always been a fan favorite, so here he is on the screen. Mega Aggron, super cool mon, also really underrated and really good. Cleavor is pretty cool. I'm kind of a fan of Electrode, his sweet version, so that's pretty interesting. Then you got some stuff that, like, Spidops and Palisand, but you gotta have some stuff too. Uh, Team-wise, priority, not super impressed with it. Again, pivoting is okay, uh, but probably all you need between the Meowscarada, Cleavor, and Urshifu. We've got great hazard removal, great hazard setup, honestly, between Spidops, Palisand, Mega Aggron, Weezing, Sandslash, all great stuff. Speed tiers were generally okay. Covered some of the major categories of that. Not sure if this team has enough offense to see its way through, but let's see if they prove us wrong. Moving on to the Lunar Eclipse, we are ranked 69 out of 100. So you're one of my higher rankers here. Hype factor, again, mid-tier. You have some cool stuff. You have some stuff. Your low tiers, I think, all are really strong drafted in between Haunter, Minior, Gligar, what's its name? Vikavolt, Talonflame, Floors. I think these are all really great guys. All of them are going to be stellar. They could come to any match, so your team will be really difficult to prep for, given the fact that you have 11 Pokemon on your team and not just 9 or 8 like some teams. So you're a threat, I believe. Low tiers are fantastic. Again, priority was really lacking. Not impressed with just a fake out type of priority, but that's what we've got here. But the rest of your team just, pivoting is great. Speed tiers, all the important ones were hit. You have okay hazard removal. You have good hazard removal, but an okay hazard setup. It's just great stuff here. And then we have the Twin Cities, coached by Wotan, running a popular Flygon here. Glad to see Flygon instead of the ugly Sinnoh dragon thing. Fake guy. 70 and a half was your ranking. Let me find that. Okay. Again, decent hype rankings. Mega Gallade's pretty cool. Like the Iron, what's its name? Hydreigon form Paradox. Flygon's great. Love Iron Moth. Love Clawitzer. Oddly enough, I like the Sliggoo. Some stuff, include Rotom-Mow, but you've got to have some stuff. And then you've got Magearna. Magearna's alright. Great hazard setup. Great setup mon and stuff, but oh my goodness, he's so overrated. Or it's so overrated, sorry. Gotta be honest with you. I always hope to see Magearna fail. So, no offense, but cheering against that whenever it shows up. And moving on. The San Juanters, Coach Toasty Party. And, he went meme with his low tiers, and yet he is one of my top contenders. Just last season in the team event, he carried our former top league premier champ goes to a finals in the team event. So we're going to let this man cook and see where he goes. He's got a mix of ridiculously powerful things, and then he's got a Krabby. So we're going to see how that goes. In terms of hype rankings, 10 out of 11 things here are fantastic hype rankers. And then you've got a Corviknight. And Corviknight is just, no. We don't like Corviknight here in the under. It is a fake Skarmory, and we do not appreciate its ability to not die. So, Gonna hope to see that thing die every single game. But other than that, we're cheering for the Haunters here. Uh, Priority again, decent. You got some bullet punches and water shurikens to throw out. Your type chart had no weaknesses, which is impressive if that means anything to anyone. Um, Speed tiers were okay. You covered some of the important things. You've got a lot of hazard removal and hazard setup. Excited to see this Greninja and Metagross do something. I'm super happy to see Kecleon back in action ever since the protein nerf. He's kind of faded out of existence, so I'm happy to see that. Lairon is an interesting one, and I kind of want to see it do something, so I'm really waiting to see that. Krabby, gonna be honest with you, don't expect anything from it. Don't understand your pick, but I'm gonna let you cook and see where that goes. And moving on to our top 4, I believe. We have the Chiming Paradise, Coach Pisunia Aleatoria. Sounds kind of Brazilian. I don't know if it actually is, but whatever. Let me just find your team name here. Chiming Paradise. There we are. Hype factor again. General 7. Nothing really to hate here. Nothing, but not like a ton to love either. Normally, I wouldn't like a thing like Alolan Muck, but due to past experiences here in the Pokemon community from our original mod chats, we used to have a member who heavily associated with them, so brings back good memories there. Vileplume is a fan favorite. I love to see a Frostmoth in action, and Arcanine is probably my favorite of the group here, so that's why his picture made it onto the screen. Things that you guys care about. I think your low tiers are fantastic. I think they're in any game they could possibly all show up. So like your team will be very difficult to prep for anyone in the league. Your offense and defensive stats are pretty much stellar. You've got all your bases covered in that. Your priorities pretty decent. I gave you 5 out of 10. You got some decent extreme speeding, shadow sneaking, and vacuum waves. You have some other ones that I saw you mention in the chat. Not so convinced they're that useful, but you've got them, I guess. What else do I want to say about your team? You've got decent hazard removal, decent hazard setup, and I expect high things from this team. So let's see how that goes. And then we hit our top 3. We have everyone's favorite Flywinged, the Phoenix Flareons, and they drafted OG Metagross. And I'm going to be honest with you, OG Metagross is my favorite Metagross. So I'm going to see how this goes. I'm really excited for this one. So make him pop off so that I have a team to cheer for and I can manipulate some results in your favor as well. Hype factor overall was decent, and then you've got stuff like Landorus, which is gross, and Grimmsnarl is kind of ugly. Not a fan of this bird thing, Fezipity, or whatever it's called. Mega Autono, glorified fodder. I wonder if you can do anything other than glorified fodder, so I'll be watching. Your low tiers are pretty decent. Now, given the things that you drafted in the higher tiers, I am concerned you might not actually use your lower tiers, but I believe they're usable. So let's see how that goes. Priority is okay. You've got some Genesect priority there, and bullet punching Metagross. Not convinced about your other priorities though, so you can prove me wrong if you want. But I do think this team is one to beat, so everyone pay attention. Take down the Phoenix Flareons. Moving on to the Kansas City Alakazams, our number 2 ranked team. Again, the mid-tier hype points is probably the only thing preventing them from being in the top spot right now. Love Articuno, one of my favorite Gen 1 stuff. My favorite of the flying birds anyways. I love King Louis Rillaboom. Landorus is okay. Tentacruel's kind of ugly, Slurpuff is derpy beyond my liking. Orthoworm, same thing. So like, there's some stuff I like on here, some stuff not so much. Hazard removal is and hazard setup is really good here, I think. Anyways, your low tiers are all great, and I think they could all show up in any game. Articuno has many uses that I think it can do stuff. Don't know if you'll agree, but we'll see. Rampardos is quite the hard hitter for an F tier, so I'm glad to see him in action. And so I'm excited to see some stuff here. An Electivire, I've seen drafted a few times, but seems to never hit the field. So let's see if you can change that trend for us, Wendy. And then on to our final team, our top team, and ironically, the team who drafted Monobug is my top candidate for best team. And it's very ironic because they have the most obvious flaws. And yet, the flaws I don't think are many. And I think Tugboat Tyler can take advantage of the fact that his flaws are obvious and his opponents will want to take advantage of them, where he can actually play around it. So, depending on how our friend Tugboat Tyler plays, this could either go really, really well or really, really poorly. I'm banking on the really, really well, so let's see how that goes. In terms of hype rankings, I gave it a maximum 10 out of 10. I pretty much like everything on this list. Parasect, fantastic. Shedinja is fantastic. Love a Scizor, love a Scolipede, Volcarona, Mega Beedrill. They're all great. Setup potential is, again, 10 out of 10. Pretty much everything on here is a threat to set up. I don't even know what to prepare for. Momentum, everything in here, U-turns, baton passes, whatever. Like, you don't know what's switching, what's staying in, what's setting up, what's defending, what's attacking. It's just nuts. Surprisingly, for a bug team, there's a ton of hazard removal. He also has a ton of hazard setup, so like, everyone be prepared. I really do think this is possibly the most threatening team in the competition. Again, if he can take advantage of the fact that his obvious flaws are the things people will target. I hope you enjoyed my super biased rankings and my ramblings for the last 20 minutes. This is probably my first video. Probably won't make any more because this is not really something I do, but whatever. And you guys can keep vibing to the under music if you want. Heading out.